On a quiet Wednesday morning in June of 2026, on a residential street in the San Fernando Valley, something terrible happened. A street where people walk their dogs. A neighborhood where nothing happens. Except this time, it did. James Handy, 81 years old, veteran of nearly 5 decades in Hollywood, was murdered in a front yard. And the details surrounding his death are as chilling as anything you'll ever hear. The call that came into 911 that morning wasn't from a panicked neighbor or a passing stranger. It was from the person who did it. And what he said when that call connected stopped officers cold. "I am the Son of Man. I just killed the man of sin." Those were his exact words. Deliberate. Loaded. Almost ritualistic. Not the words of someone in a blind rage. The words of someone who had thought about this. Officers from the West Valley Division raced to the scene on Irwin Street and found James Handy unconscious in the front yard, stabbed in the chest. Paramedics rushed him to hospital. He was pronounced dead. But here's what makes this even harder to process. The suspect didn't run. He flagged down the responding officers himself. Walked right up to them and said he was the person they were looking for. His name was Michael Gledhill, 44 years old, a resident of Tarzana. He was arrested on the spot, booked on 1 count of murder, and bail was set at $2 million. And when you find out who Michael Gledhill was, his connection to James Handy, everything gets even more devastating. Before we get there, though, you need to understand who this man really was. Because the name James Handy may not have meant much to you before today. But the face? You know the face. You just may not have known it belonged to someone this remarkable. James Michael Handy was born on March 19, 1945, in New York City. He grew up surrounded by theater, energy, and ambition, the kind of city that either swallows you whole or sharpens you into something extraordinary. For Handy, it was the latter. He built his craft the old-fashioned way. Theatrical training, relentless auditions, grinding persistence.
No shortcuts. No viral moments.
Just years of work, earning his place in rooms that are notoriously hard to get into. And that foundation? It shows in every single frame he ever appeared in. There's a groundedness to him, a naturalism, that you simply cannot fake. By 1977 he had made his professional screen debut, and over the next nearly 5 decades he would accumulate more than 150 film and television credits. You heard that right. 150. The man was everywhere, not in a soulless, factory-line way, but because productions actively sought him out. He showed up prepared. He delivered. Every single time. His early film work set the tone. The Verdict in 1982, a Sidney Lumet courtroom drama with Paul Newman, nominated for 5 Academy Awards including Best Picture. Bird, the 1988 Clint Eastwood film. Brighton Beach Memoirs. These weren't filler roles. These were serious productions, serious directors, and James Handy was in the room because he belonged there. And on television? Melrose Place, Beverly Hills 90210, Murder, She Wrote, Quantum Leap. If a show was on in the late 80s or early 90s, there's a reasonable chance he had a scene in it. But here's where his story really starts to surprise you. It wasn't just one era of his career that counted. It was all of them. The 90s brought Arachnophobia, The Rocketeer, and the original Robin Williams Jumanji, where Handy played an exterminator. A small role. A role most actors would sleepwalk through. He made it memorable. That was the Handy way. 90 seconds on screen and you remembered him. Then came M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable in 2000, Logan in 2017, the raw, emotionally devastating Wolverine film that reminded the world what superhero movies could be, and then, the role that brought him to a whole new generation. Jimmy the bartender in Top Gun, Maverick. Top Gun, Maverick was a phenomenon. A $1.5 billion global blockbuster. The highest-grossing film of Tom Cruise's entire career. And there was James Handy, 77 years old at the time of filming, holding his own opposite Jennifer Connelly, providing the warmth and quiet wisdom that grounded the film's emotional world. A small role in one of the biggest movies of the decade. Made unforgettable by a man who knew exactly what every scene needed. And he was still being cast. Still being chosen. That is the detail you should never lose sight of. His television legacy runs just as deep. Arthur Devlin in Alias, Lou Handelman in Profiler, and recurring appearances across NYPD Blue, ER, The West Wing, The X-Files, Criminal Minds, CSI, NY, and The Practice, among dozens of others. And through all of it, across 50 years, across every genre, across hundreds of productions, not a single headline for the wrong reasons. No drama.
No controversy.
In an industry built on ego and spectacle, James Handy let his work do all the talking. That kind of record doesn't happen by accident. It reflects who someone is, which makes what happened on June 3, 2026, all the more impossible to understand. Because Michael Gledhill wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a random attacker. He was the son of Handy's girlfriend, a 76-year-old woman named Wendy Gledhill, who lived at that Owen Street property. James Handy was at a home connected to someone he loved, a place he trusted, a place where he should have been completely safe. And Wendy Gledhill's son fatally stabbed him in the chest and left him dying in the front yard. That 911 call, "I am the son of man. I just killed the man of sin," doesn't sound like a fight that escalated. It sounds like something far more disturbing. The language is grandiose, almost rehearsed, soaked in a kind of delusional self-mythology that sends a chill down your spine. As of now, authorities have not publicly confirmed the specific motive. But what has been confirmed is a murder charge, a $2 million bail, and a grief that is almost incomprehensible. Wendy Gledhill lost her partner and, in an entirely different way, her son, all before Wednesday morning was over. There is no roadmap for that kind of pain. And yet, in the days that followed, as the tributes began to pour in, something quietly profound happened. Most people couldn't have told you James Handy's name before June 4th. But the moment they heard it, the moment they saw his face, they knew exactly who he was. That is the paradox of the great character actor. They are everywhere and somehow invisible at the same time. They anchor scenes. They make leading performances look better. They do it without ever demanding the spotlight or the poster or the talk show circuit. They just need the work to be good, and they make sure it is. James Handy did that for nearly 50 years. He was the actor other actors were grateful to share a scene with. The name on the call sheet that made producers relax, because they knew whatever scene he was in would be handled. In a town full of people desperately clawing for attention, he was the man who simply did not need to. And that is rarer than any award, any box office record, any viral moment you can name. He did not fade out. He was not forgotten before his time. He was still working as recently as 2022, still being cast, still being chosen, still very much in the game at 81. James Handy spent his entire life making other people's stories better. He deserved so much more than the ending he got. The least we can do now is remember him for the work. Because the work, as they say, speaks for itself, and it speaks louder than most.